Letter 45 of Young Americans Abroad, or Vacation in Europe, Travels in England, France, Holland, Belgium, Prussia, and Switzerland, edited by J.O. Choules, read for LibriVox.org into the public domain. Letter 45 Lausanne. Dear Charley, we left Basle on a bright morning at 6 o'clock, having places in the coupé of the diligence for Berne, a distance of 76 miles. We took this route in order to enjoy the remarkable scenery which marks the Moutier Valley, which is the most romantic in the Jura mountain range. This journey entirely takes the palm for enjoyment of any in our tour, and I think I am more surprised and gratified than I was on the Rhine. Certainly the prospect was more constantly grand and inspiring. We started with 6 horses, 3 abreast, and jogged on at about 6 miles the hour over as good roads as I ever travelled. They are also the cleanest you ever saw. All along, at intervals, we saw men with badges in their hats, who appeared to have charge of the highway. Everything on the road is scraped up, and at every quarter of a mile, more or less, there is at the wayside an enclosure for manure, into which everything is turned. On all the line of travel in Switzerland, we were struck with the careful way in which heaps of manure are protected by large bands of corded hay, twisted round. Then, too, in the villages and towns we were all interested with the enormous stone troughs for watering cattle. Some of these appeared to me full 20 feet long and 2 or 3 feet deep. On our way from Basle we passed the battle ground of St. Jacob, and some way farther on we saw the battlefield of Dornach, at which place the Swiss obtained a victory over the Austrians in 1499. A little before reaching Tavannes we ascended a hill and came to a wonderful archway across the road, perhaps natural. On it is a Roman inscription. The arch is, I should think, nearly 50 feet high and 15 in depth. We then went on to Bienne, and a pretty looking place it is. We left it on our right, and our road was very hilly, really mountainous, and the air was sharp. As we walked for 2 or 3 miles to help the horses, we found the wild strawberries offered for sale very pleasant. We reached Berne late in the evening, and the entrance to the town, through a noble avenue of trees called the Engadh, was very pleasant. We repaired to the Faucon, and enjoyed the repose of a long night. Berne is a large town, with a population of nearly 30,000. It lies on the banks of the Aar, which goes almost round the city. The great elevation of the city, 1,700 feet above the sea, gives it quite an appearance on approaching it. Then the houses are all built upon arched pathways, and they form arcades, very much like the old city of Chester in England. We noticed several watch-towers, evidently very ancient, and one in the town, near our hotel, has a queer clock, which, like that at Strasburg, is mechanical. On striking, out comes a cock and flaps away with his wings, and then little images appear, and bears pass by a puppet seated on a throne. Bears seem to be the guardian angels of this place, and are the arms of the town. We were very much pleased with an extensive prospect of the Bernese Alps, from a terrace overhanging the rapid river. I cannot tell you how many peaks we saw covered with snow. Our panorama, purchased here, enumerates more than a dozen, and among these are the Wetterhorn, Stockhorn, and Jungfrau. We greatly enjoyed a fine sunset from this spot. The cathedral is a noble structure, built about 1421 and 1573, and from designs by the son of the architect of the cathedral at Strasburg. Some of the work here is exceedingly fine. The great entrance is very imposing, and has rich sculptures. Here, too, are some beautifully painted windows, one describing the Pope grinding the 4 evangelists in a mill, out of which comes wafers, is very curious. The organ is very fine, and the case one of the richest in Europe. It has 4 rows of keys and 66 stops. The font is of black granite, and has the date of 1525, which is 3 years previous to the Church Reformation in this canton. It has some finely sculptured images of the Trinity, Virgin Mary, and St. Vincent, the patron saint of the church. We were pointed out the communion table, of marble, which is an immense block, and before the Reformation it was an altar at Lausanne. There are some fine monuments, having great antiquity. In the choir we were delighted with the old prebendal stalls, over which were figures of Christ and his apostles, and on the opposite side prophets, all in carved wood. One of the prophets was a capital likeness of Luther. As we were leaving this noble edifice, we met a minister coming in. He wore a short black gown, and had a deep white ruff on his shoulders. The library of the town embraces about 45,000 volumes, and well assorted too. What a reproach it is to us that, excepting in Providence, hardly any small city has what can be called a library. The museum we could not examine. I spoke of bears; well, the town keeps several of these fellows at a place called the Bärengraben. Much did we long to take a trip into the Bernese Oberland, but it was not practicable, so we started for Lausanne by diligence, a distance of 56 miles, and were 11 hours on the way. We saw much fine scenery, but nothing that would compare with the Münsterthal or Valley of Moutiers, and which I think would pay any lover of nature to come from America to look at and travel through. The places we went through were Murat, famous for its battle in 1476, Avenches, the Roman Aventicum, Payerne, etc. The last few miles were of great labor in ascent, and as it was pitch dark for some miles, I cannot tell much about what is said to be beautiful. At Lausanne we went to the Hotel Gibbon, and a lovelier spot than the rear of this mansion I never rested upon. Again we were weary, and found good beds very inviting. Yours, etc., James. End of Letter 45. Read by Sibella Denton. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information, please visit LibriVox.org.